Alright guys, hey, welcome. I'm Queso Builds, and thanks for clicking the video. Today we're going to be painting Headpool from Deadpool 3. Alright, so this is a time lapse, so I'm going to be going pretty quickly. I had to time lapse it because it did take me a little bit of time to paint Headpool, but I'm going to be using a mixture of paintbrush and airbrush. I'm going to be using standard airbrush paint that it came with. I'm also going to be using some Army Painter speed paints in my airbrush and Army Painter just regular paint, miniature paint on the hand brushing part. All right, so as you can kind of see, I already went through with a paint marker and just kind of put where I wanted to have the black at. I do a paint marker first to outline it one, but it also makes the inside very dark where the brush is, where the paint's going to be going, and so it's going to add a gradient. Airbrush adds in a fantastic gradient. If you've never airbrushed before, essentially the closer you hold it to an object, the more paint's going to be concentrated. The farther away you hold it, the wider the line's going to be, but also the less concentrated it's going to be. So I'm just kind of go through, lower the darkness. I'm testing out paint color, thickness of the paint that I want. And I finally get one, and now I'm just kind of going through and painting the grime and where the creases are of Deadpool. I'm also going to go along the edges right now and kind of add like a burn effect or a ripped effect, because this is, you know, an undead Deadpool. It's a skull. So this is going to be ripped, tattered, whatever you have it, but adding this black on the edges is going to, draw people's eyes to it. So I was just talking about drawing eyes to certain areas. The reason I do this is because this is a zero post-processing print. I didn't sand it, no Bondo, nothing. This is zero sanding. Okay, and that's big if you're into 3D printing, if you don't have to sand something that's super nice. So when you're doing this, you want to add places for people to look. And so if you could put a low light where details are, people's eyes are going to be drawn to that naturally, opposed to whatever minor layer lines there might be. And this print didn't have that many layer lines. They're really hard to see. It's a textured print, and so that makes it more difficult to see. But if you add these black low lights, it's going to be even harder to see, and it's going to look even better. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is just adding black paint everywhere I can, and little cracks and crevices. I'm going to, put more black there. So here's the two pieces together. I'm going to be adding the top part next. That's the leather helmet, the old football leather helmet, to it. I've got to go off camera here because I messed up and I put it the wrong way and it looked weird. So what I'm going to be doing with this is the same thing. Every hard corner, I'm going to be putting low light, and after the low lights, I'm going to come in with a highlight and give you highlights and low lights. And just, for a shameless plug here, if you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers before the end of the year. My goal originally was 1,000, but in the summertime I crushed that, and now I'm at 3,600. So if you're enjoying the video and you're getting some tips on painting 3D prints, subscribe. That'd mean the world to me, and thank you for watching. So as you can kind of see, I'm kind of overspraying. I'm just going really quickly on these hard areas because it's all going to be blended in eventually. So you don't need to be too careful. Just, be like Bob Ross. Whatever happens, happens. That's what's meant to be. This is not supposed to be a perfect print or a perfect paint job. But make it look good. If there's something that goes wrong, work with it and incorporate it into the paint job. And so that's what I'm doing. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to hand paint each individual stitching. I'm going to be using I don't know what it's called. I think it's, let me grab the paint real quick. All right, so it's just a war paint from the Army Painter. I use miniature paint because honestly, it's some of the best paint out there that you can get. It's a little bit more expensive, but it lasts a really long time. I've had this paint for a few years now, and I've been using the same bottle continually on little highlights like this. So I'm just going to be going around each individual stitch. This took the longest time, and I think it's worth it. It turned out great in the end, but if you want to do this, do it. If you don't want to, skip it. That's fine. But it does add that little extra detail that's going to be drawing people's eyes to that, opposed to the imperfections of the print, if there's any. So just a heads up, while you're using miniature paint and the war paints themselves, make sure you're putting them on a wet palette. This would stop drying while you are painting. As I was going through all the individual stitches, I did have some paint start to get caked on the brush itself. If I had a wet palette, that would stop it from over drying, just sitting there waiting to be painted with. So that is one tip for the future. make sure you have a wet palette to put your paints on so they don't get dried out. All right, so I'm going to time lapse this even more because I'm just going around doing the stitching. So it's going to go really, really quickly, and then we're going to jump to what I'm doing next. So I'll catch you there in a second. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put all the parts together, and where there's more hard edges on the mask itself, I need to put more low lights in. And so it's going to kind of blend the two together where I need them to be. I'm just going to kind of go and block it in, fill it in where I need it to be, and then I'm just going to go shoot some paint, even more places, and kind of bring down the light of the mask itself. All right, so what you're going to see me doing now is I'm putting in the eyes. I hand painted these eyes with some speed paints and some regular Army Painter paints. What I'm using to glue them in is PLA Gloop. Gloop is a bonding agent. It fuses the PLA together. It's not just gluing them together, it's actually joining the parts together to make one solid part. And so that's what I'm doing right now is using Gloop. If you've never used Gloop before and you print with PLA, give it a try. It's fantastic. I have had no complaints with Gloop itself. So as we're coming to a close with this video, the paint job's pretty much done. Just going to put the helmet on and let the glue dry. I will be sure to link all the products I used in the video. You can kind of see the helmet fell there a little bit. It's actually resting in a better spot with those 3 points of contact instead of the one. And so I did add some glue later, some gloop later, and so it's actually a pretty strong print. So anyways, I'm going to be adding all the links below to the Amazon war paints. I'll put gloop in there. Anything else that you guys can think of that you might need, maybe I'll throw in the airbrush that I got too. It came with a compressor and a couple of airbrushes, and it served me well. So if you think of anything else that I used in this video that you'd like to see, let me know, and I will link more stuff in the comments, but I will put everything I used in the description. Thanks for watching. I'm Queso Builds.